Okay, painting students, this is our final project for our online learning in our painting class. Those of you that have been working on your portrait drawings or your paintings and your other painting, the watercolor landscape, and this is the final one, the still life painting. This may be perfect because we're stuck at home painting and doing things that you can find things around your home that are of interest to you. Maybe they have some significance to you to create a still life and to paint that as your subject. You have at your disposal your 12 by 16 canvas paper, and I gave you a couple extra pieces of that for you to use. And so let's talk about still life painting. This can be some objects that you have around. This is an example of Wayne Tebow. He is a pop art painter. I've always kind of liked his paintings because of the colors. He kind of used somewhat thick paint when he created these as well. That kind of did a lot of cakes and foods and other objects. And used some really nice colors and some real striking shadows. That's probably what makes his stuff kind of stand out, the shadows and highlights. So think about some things. Wayne Tebow, you can look him up. He has a lot of artwork out there. I believe he's actually still alive, but he's about 99 or 100 years old. So it's kind of an interesting painter. As well as this is more of a recent artist by the name of Burt. I've seen his stuff published recently in an artist magazine. Kind of thought it was very interesting, his arrangement of common everyday items. I actually like to draw toys and have those types of things around the classroom to draw and paint. So here is some cool arrangements. He takes something that is just every day and kind of adds a little humor to it, kind of makes it entertaining. And he's just using a couple objects together to create his paintings. Now his paintings are pretty realistic, and so don't be intimidated by that. He's a trained artist and has a few years on us as far as experience. Here are some more of his work: Animal House, and Sweet Maneuver. So he's incorporated some food and toys and some interesting things, kind of stacked them on top of each other. There's a couple different points of view here, a side view and a top view. So those are some options for you. Also with this Animal House, I want you to take a look at the deep shadow that was painted on the surface. That is kind of key to getting something that brings that item from more of a flat item to more of a three-dimensional, is adding the highlights and shadows. Here's some more examples: Lighten 'em Up and Pure Michigan. So he's got a box here that he's put a few toys in. As you can see, there's some shadows and highlights, and a cube and a sphere are something that we have drawn before in other classes. So be thinking about that when you're creating these. All right, here's an example. He actually has an Instagram page. So if you are so interested to see his process a little bit, you can go on his Instagram, kind of see some of the process that he goes about to create his project. He has penciled out a nice sketch of the layout first, a detailed drawing first, and then he comes in with the paint. So that is a very important piece in creating a good painting, is the good drawing behind it. So make sure you've got a really nice drawing first and then proceed with paint. All right, so how to begin. So find a couple objects. I would say either choose one large object or three small objects to create, and arrange them in such a way that they're somewhat interesting to you. And if you need to, find a lamp or something to kind of shine a light on one side to kind of give it some dynamic lighting. Consider the point of view. You're certainly welcome to go a top view, that might be interesting, or a side view. And you can either draw from life or photograph your subject. Sometimes I find that students are able to kind of manage the subject a little better when they compose it with their camera or their phone camera and find an angle that's interesting to you. That's actually a quick way with a camera to eliminate crop and kind of adjust and kind of look it over an image to see what seems best to you. And it's actually a method I use oftentimes is I'll photograph it, crop it, maybe Photoshop a little bit, things like that. So kind of be thinking about that. It's a good way to compose your art. You're welcome to, once you photograph it, to print it out and grid it if that helps you. That is definitely a tool at your disposal, is draw a grid right over the photograph. Or you might be able to do that on your phone somehow. I don't know how to do that, but I bet there's a way. So draw it out on your canvas paper. Now your canvas paper is 12 by 16, and you are welcome to crop that down. So I would either tape it off or trim it down with scissors. It is sometimes nice to have a little bit of a border when you're trying to mat something. So leave a little bit of an edge beyond the piece of paper there, or you can cut it down when you're done. Tape off the area that you think you want to draw it in, and then you can always trim it later. All right, so don't forget when you're painting this is to look closely at the details and the values that you see. Oftentimes, like the apple that you see up here in this picture, it has several values. It's not just solid green. You've got some other values in there. And think about what we did when in our monochromatic painting is we really looked at all the different values in the different objects. And then adding your highlights and shadows. It really places something on its surface really well if you put that shadow in, the cast shadow on the surface, as well as just coming in with a very light version of your color that the object is, and bringing in that highlight. That is what helps really bring something to life. All right, so I put in a few tutorials here, or just some quick images of how to draw something that's metallic and something that is glass. It's all about the sharp edges and the deep contrast between lights and darks to create something that looks realistic. That's the lights and the shadows. And something like glass and metal have a lot of shine to them. All right, here are some student examples. This is the first year. I haven't done this project at Martin Norwalk, so here's a couple examples from student work from a previous school that I taught at. And here are some other examples, just kind of highlighting some of the shadows of Wayne Tebow. He really brought things to life with the cast shadow, and the shadow is not necessarily black. He used, because things were pretty colorful for him, he used a lot of blue and other colors to kind of bring out the shadows. Use your creative license there. All right, so this is the final project for our painting class as we are working online. Please reach out if you have questions and have an interest and need to know more, or if you need me to look at something and get my feedback. Happy painting!